All right. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today for Kineo's Totara office hours. We are going to talk about a pretty common thing today, but something that I don't think people quite understand, that while it may be common, it's very, very important. So a little bit about myself before we get started. My name is Taylor Craig. I'm the Learning Platform Specialist here at Kineo. So I work with our existing clients as well as potential clients, giving some training on Totara as well as sales demonstration support. So that is my role here at Kineo. Let's talk a little bit about what office hours are for those of you who maybe have never joined us before or haven't had a chance to view one of the recordings. Kineo office hours are available only to our clients. At least the 45 minutes of open floor discussion and questions are. We do have a 15-minute feature presentation every week that we do post up onto YouTube for anybody and everybody to utilize as they need. But that 45 minutes is strictly for our clients only, and we like for them to come and bring us your questions. No questions too big, no questions too small. If I don't know the answer, I'll probably know somebody who does. So bring us all of your questions. We're glad to hear them. If you haven't already noticed, in the email that I send out weekly, there was a survey gizmo link in there for ideas for office hours. So we've been having a couple of folks submit some things. Megan, I think you did last week. Thank you very much for that. We will get to that topic at some point this year. And everybody just submit any ideas that you have. If you come up with them, submit them, and if it's something about Totara, we'll be glad to talk about it and put it on the list. So if you haven't already found the link, here it is here. And then it's also in that email that I sent out early this morning. So today what we're talking about, like I said, it's pretty common and it's something that we see a lot inside of Totara, but I don't think a lot of people understand quite how important course completion is. It's very, very critical to lots of different things. So course completion is exactly what it sounds like. It's the completion of courses. It's set at the course level settings, and it's really important because it allows us to pull reports. It allows us to track learners throughout the system. It is the primary driver to tracking and reporting in the system. So that's all fine and well, but how do we use it? So let's take a look. Let me go over here to my demonstration site. So inside of your site, you would go into a course. So you would actually locate a course. Mine seems to be very slow today. There we go. Courses, manage courses and categories. And I'm just going to go to one of my typical courses that I use all the time, which is my Totara Course Basics course. And we'll eventually get in there. There we go. We're going to go ahead and view that course. So this particular course has lots and lots of stuff in it. We have all of our different assignments, forums, score 'em, quiz, all kinds of good stuff inside of this course. But one thing that we don't necessarily see is course completion. Course completion is going to be tracked within the activity. So when you go to an activity or an assignment, you'll see the ability to give a learner the ability to complete something. From that, then we talk about course completion. So we take the things inside of the course that are complete, so the activities inside the course that we have completed, and then what we do is we turn that around and we say, okay, now these are the things that make this course complete, and this is how we set that. So once you've set activity completion, let's talk really quickly about how to do that. I'm going to turn editing on, and I'm going to go into an activity. So I'm going to go to Edit, Edit Settings, and I'm going to scroll all the way down. And down here we see activity completion. This particular one has already had activity completion set, but I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to unlock and keep the data so you can see it like you would if you were first creating this. So you've got a couple of options on how you set this. We have show activity is complete when conditions are met. That's what we're using, but we can say that the student can manually mark it as complete, or we can say do not indicate activity completion. If we were to select do not indicate activity completion, it is not going to show up inside of our course completion settings when we get there. But what we want to do is we want to use the show activity is complete when conditions are met. This is probably the most flexible, it's probably the most automatic, and it's probably the most versatile that you're going to have as far as completion settings. Here what we can say is the student must view it to complete it. One thing to keep in mind, you also have other options, and dependent on the activity, you may have 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes more options as far as what makes that particular activity complete. Just because you can doesn't mean you should necessarily, so pick a few and stick with those completions and remain consistent throughout your learning. Also, you want to make sure that you, as an instructor, that you are not hindering your learners' progress through the course because they're waiting on you. For example, this one, student must receive a grade to complete this activity. That's all fine and well, but if I am an instructor and I have to grade it, I could potentially prohibit my learner from completing a course because maybe I haven't been Johnny on the spot and I haven't graded that assignment yet. So think about those things when setting that type of completion. One thing also, guys, to note, this expected completed on date, it does not mean that it's going to complete. They have to have it completed and it's going to lock them out at that date. That's not how that works. That is just simply going to be, we expected it to be completed on a particular date, and you'll see it in a report for the course, and we'll take a look at that as well. Okay, so once you've set course completion on all of your activities that you think need to be a part of the completion, once you've set your activity completion, then we can talk about course completion. So to set course completion, you would go down to Administration, Course Administration, Course Completion. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to unlock my criteria without deleting because I want you to see it how you would if you hadn't set any conditions yet. And what we have here is course is complete when all conditions are met. Now we're talking about our completion requirements up here at the top. So what that's referring to is that is referring to adding a combination of any of these. So activity completion, completion of other courses, date, enrollment, course grade, manual self-completion, several of these other types of completion. Typically the one you're going to use the most commonly is going to be the condition called activity completion. Okay, and that's kind of what we were just talking about. We have to set completion on those activities before we see them appear here. So if you didn't set completion on an activity, it is not going to appear in this list. Okay, so you'll notice now when I scroll down, I have a few things that I have marked for completion. If I wanted to, I could add something else to this. So I could add any of these things. So if I wanted to, I could add one more. Then we can scroll to the bottom, and we can save those changes. Okay, what it's going to tell you then up at the top is it's going to tell you that course completion criteria has been changed, or it's going to say it's been set, and that active participants who already match the criteria, their status will be updated on the next cron run. So for instance, if you added something to the course and then added that as part of course completion, what it's going to do is it's going to kind of indicate that that person hasn't completed now. So keep those types of things in mind, what you're doing to your existing learners when you're changing that completion. Okay, so what this does for me, it does a couple of different things. Within the course, and this is kind of a little known report, and this is not one of the big Totara reports that we see all the time inside of our report builder. This is a completely different report. This is a course level report, and this is going to be located underneath course administration, reports, and course completion. Now this is a different course completion report from our normal Totara course completion report that you're used to seeing. Again, this is at the course level, but what this is going to show me is this is going to show me all of my learners who are enrolled on the course. It's also going to show me all of the activities that I set as completion standards for the course. It's going to show me if they've completed them, kind of an at-a-glance view of where people are. I'm also able to mouse over this, and I'm able to see when that individual completed it. So it is going to timestamp that for me. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. You're going to notice that I have two check marks here. One side, and you'll see here, it says recognition of prior learning. We've talked about RPLs in some of our previous office hour sessions. You can go back and take a look at that. But basically what that's allowing me to do is, as an administrator, it's allowing me to come in and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to count him as complete on this. He didn't really have an opportunity to take it because he had already completed the course. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to manually mark him as complete as an admin. Okay, so you do have the ability to do that as well. One thing that's nice about this particular report is it will download in an Excel format. So it does show you all of this data in a time-stamped fashion, as well as on a nice little Excel file. So you do have the ability to do that as well. Okay. Some other things that this does for us, it does actually help us out as far as our course completion is concerned with our actual big reports at the site level that you're probably used to seeing, which are in site administration, reports, report builder, and manage reports. These are the ones that you're probably more familiar with. These are your Totara reports that you're able to generate yourself. So here's a course completion. You'll notice that a lot of my reports here are based off of course completion or program completion or some type of completion. Any of these that are based off of completion, they're everyone looking at that course completion setting that I have set, and it's looking at where the learners are in the course. So if I pull this open, I'm able to see that my people are complete or not complete, or if they're in progress. So again, all of that is keying off of that those course completions that we're setting inside of the course. Now if I go in here and I log in as Lawrence, he's actually taking some of these courses. So if I go log in as him, we're going to see another place where we're able to see course completion in action. So anywhere where you see these gas gauges, where you see these bars that are indicating where people are in a certain place in their learning, that is all keying off of course completion. So again, it's very, very important. You'll notice that if you click on those gas gauges as a learner, or even as a manager clicking on that gauge for your learners, you should be able to see kind of where people are in the course, and it kind of gives you a report on a per person type of basis. So keep that in mind. Those types of things, that's all coming from that course completion. If we go to our record of learning, doesn't look like he's done a whole lot. We could go, let's look at his completed learning, see if he has anything in there. He's probably not the best example, but we're able to see where he stands as far as his current learning is concerned, and that is what that gauge does. That gauge indicates where people are. As they move through the course, that gauge gets a little larger and does end up turning green and moving them to their completed learning. So course completion, again, pretty common, something that we see a lot and all the time, but sometimes people forget where to set it or why it's important. And so we wanted to make sure to talk about that a little bit today. Any questions or comments? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn the floor back over to you guys.